the story of Ganga presented. After that, listening to that, well, the brothers, it is late in the evening, they fall asleep, and now next morning they are ready to continue their journey towards Mithila. And as I said, Mithila is said to be either Janakpur of Nepal, or others say it is in Jharkhand, Bihar. That region was Mithila in those days. Whatever it may be, they are in the outskirts of Mithila and they see a beautiful ashram there. When they reach the outskirts, this beautiful place, but seems to be an abandoned place, and it has the vibrations of a powerful ashram. Sri Rama asks Sage Vishwamitra, whose place is this? And Sage Vishwamitra explains, this was a very beautiful, powerful place of Sage Gautama and his wife. The rishis, there were rishis who had wives. They were called Rishikas, unmarried rishis, called Ekaki. Ekaki means they were single, they didn't marry. There were two types of rishis in those days. Sage Gautama had his wife Anasuya, the most beautiful woman who remained with her tapas, her penance. She remained beautiful for many, many, many years, young, attractive. He took the disguise of Sage Gautama, and when he was not home, he approaches Anasuya. Well, Anasuya can see beyond what was really true, but she was so honored that the King of Heavens has come to her. She felt so honored and pleased and proud of her beauty that she goes along with him, and they come close, and time comes now to leave. Indra is ready, hurries to leave, but unfortunately for him, it's one of those stories where that's precisely when Sage Gautama is returning back to the hermitage. And lo and behold, when he sees what has happened, Indra is caught red-handed. Sage Gautama curses him to lose this manhood of his, and seeing Ahalya, what she had done to him, well, he declares that it was seeing her is what caused this. She will remain in an unseen form, without food, without water, and she will not be seen by anybody, and she will remain on air. Ahalya regrets what she had done. That is precisely what it is. A wrong karma always calls for a regret and an atonement. The messages in Ramayana through and through is recognize, have an intellectual honesty to own up and be ready for atonement for whatever I do in my life. Taking responsibility for my thoughts, words and action. Well, Ahalya remains in the unseen form, but Sage Gautama gives her a relief and says that she will come back to her original form when Sri Rama, Lord Narayana himself, enters this hermitage in the form of Sri Rama. Having heard this story, Sri Rama is eager to enter the hermitage. They all step in, And how can he miss Ahalya? Radiant as she was, and even though unseen to the world, he sees her and she manifests again, taking blessings of Sri Rama and Lakshmana. Well, Sage Gautama also appears there and he receives her back, and that is a beautiful closure of that episode. After this, they are now ready to enter Mithila. They enter Mithila, and King Janaka is so honored to see Sage Vishwamitra. He was not an ordinary sage, as I mentioned, he was a Brahma Rishi himself. The highest title you can get in your penance is Brahma Rishi. And so Sage Vishwamitra had that title. And King Janaka had his own Rishi who was an advisor, the son of Sage Gautama, whose name was Shatananda. When Sage Shatananda sees Vishwamitra, he is so eager. He asks Sri Rama, Lakshmana, do you know who has brought you here? You know who he is? Well, Sri Rama knows the story of the ancestors, all right. But they don't know. Vishwamitra sage never told about his past. In fact, no sage, no saint, no sadhu, no seeker is supposed to speak about his or her past. Neither they speak about their past, nor is anybody supposed to ask, hey, what were you before you became a monk? I was a dacoit. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to say? Even if you say, what does it matter? What matters is who you are today. And therefore, it is not in the culture to ask, and Sage Vishwamitra was never asked. But Sage Shatananda tells Sri Rama the story of Sage Vishwamitra. Because Sage Vishwamitra, Brahma Rishi, was he always a Brahma Rishi? No. He was an ordinary king, coming from that lineage of the royal family of Sage Kusha, remember? In fact, Vishwamitra's old name, pre-sage name, was King Kaushika. A great king, a powerful king, a king who accomplished so much. He would travel to the forest, new regions with his army and all his weaponry and whatnot, and achieve whatever he wanted. So powerful was King Kaushika. And the story goes, one day in the forest, very tired, the whole army is in the forest, moving to new lands, and there they meet Sage Vasishtha. And Sage Vasishtha guides him, gives him direction, because those days if kings met sages, they took them as counselors. The king is very pleased with the sage, honored. The sage declares, well, you have come spend the morning with me. Let me organize lunch for you and your entire army. The king is surprised, in this forest? How will you manage a meal for my entire army, thousands of people? The sage says, you are my guest. It will be done. And he calls his cow. There is a sacred cow with him, and he calls her, he considers her as his daughter, Surabhi. Surabhi is also known as Shabala. And the sage tells Surabhi, "Oh Surabhi, it is time to feed our guests. Let us make a great feast for them." And Surabhi, this Kamadhenu, she, whatever father says, she accepts. A massive feast is prepared. How prepared? Surabhi doesn't herself go and cook. All she needs to do is accept the thought and the food appears. And oh well, this whole army is fed. Everyone is so happy. They are amazed at what Surabhi could do. They were made so comfortable. And at the end of it all, King Kaushika has a peculiar thinking. What is his thinking? His thinking is, a cow of this nature, what is she doing in the forest? She really belongs to the kingdom. In fact, it should not be sitting with rishis and all. These rishis just keep all these important, this great wealth with them. They should just give it away to society. And so he tells Sage Vasishta, I think this cow is not required by you. The kingdom needs a wonderful resource like her, so I am going to take her with me. And Vasishta is surprised. Hey, is this the result of hospitality? He says, you cannot do that. She is not another resource. She is my child, my daughter. King Kaushika will never take no for an answer. He pulls Surabhi by force, and the army men take her away from the hermitage. Surabhi is crying for help. She breaks the rope loose and runs to her father and asks him, what is it? What wrong have I done? You're going to abandon me? You're going to allow me to be milked the way these people want? You're going to let me go? How can you let them do this to me? And Sage Vasishta says, enough, my child, just be here. King Kaushik won't take no for an answer, and he tries to declare that if you don't give Surabhi to me, war will be declared. We will take her with us no matter what. Sage Vasishta responds, go ahead. Try your luck to move Surabhi away from me. Well, the army get into action with all their weapons and they attack the hermitage. Before their arrows reach the hermitage, Surabhi has generated soldiers to match King Kaushik's army, and no arrow, nothing can come anywhere near the hermitage. King Kaushik is shocked. So disappointed he is, he uses all his weaponry, whatever is possible. But they miserably are defeated by one Surabhi. One Surabhi. And you find they have no choice but to withdraw. King Kaushika cannot forget what has happened. He has never been more insulted in his life, and that too by a cow. Holy cow. By just a cow. How could this happen to me? What is this power of Sage Vasishta? He finds if my power, my weaponry, my army, my navy, my air force, if all of this is futile before that sage's power, I want that power. And King Kaushik leaves his kingdom to his children and walks away and goes to the north, to the Himalayas, to do tapas to Lord Shiva. He has to gain the power that sage Vashishta has. And he goes there and spends a massive 1,000 years in tapas and gains great proficiency in archery from Lord Shiva himself. The only way he knows his power is if he can come and face Vashishta, and so he returns, faces sage Vashishta and says, I have come alone this time. Let me see what you can do this time. And he uses his mantra shakti, all that power of archery that he got, and he begins to shoot arrows at sage Vashishta. All that the sage does, he was sitting in his hermitage, outside the hermitage, with his danda, with his staff. All he did was picked his staff and held it in front of him, and the arrows collapsed right there. All that tapas that he did was futile. He used that energy to get sage Vashishta, to overpower him. All it took is one balam, the power of sage Vashishta's penance, could not touch him. Disappointed, he goes to south. This is an amazing story of sage Vishwamitra who never gives up. King Kaushik. He goes to south and does tapas for 1,000 years, and sage, our Brahmaji, comes to him and he tells him, hey Kaushik, you are no more a King Kaushik, your penance is amazing, I give you the title, you are today a Rajarshi. Vishwamitra, King Kaushik thinks, I'm only a Rajarshi? I've done 1,000 years of tapas, that's all I have gotten. But that is a good post anyway, it's a power, it's a great title, Rajarshi. And so he has this title, and an episode takes place. In this episode, there is one King Trishanku who has a fancy to reach the heaven in the physical human form. We all have funny fancies, you know. You want to go to the moon, right, in the physical body? Well, he had a fancy to go to the heaven in the physical body. So he seeks help from sage Vashishta and others to help him, because he didn't have that balam, that strength. Sage Vashishta refuses. This is not correct. I cannot help you. This Trishanku Raja goes to who? King Kaushik, Rajarshi, and tells him, sage Vashishta refused me. What do you think he answered? He refused you, I will see that you reach the heaven. And so this King Kaushik uses all his power that made him a Rajarshi to send King Trishanku to the heavens. When Trishanku is sent up, the people, the residents of the celestial world, finds this peculiar looking man coming up and says, hey, you are not allowed here in this physical body. Get out from here. They close the door on him. He cannot enter the heavens. And Trishanku is falling from the heavens. He calls out for help. And King Kaushik, the Rajarshi, hears and he says, stop. Where you are will be the heaven. He creates a heaven for Trishanku, and that heaven is called Trishanku Swargam. A heaven named Trishanku. Well, you may think it is heaven. We say he was neither here nor there. He hung in mid-space by the power of King Kaushik. And you know something? Please remain muted. And you know something? What happened to, say, King Kaushik? He lost his power that he had acquired. In this competition with Sage Vashishta, every weakness of his deep hatred for Sage Vashishta, his deep competition, wanting to outsmart the sage, all this emerges and different situations come about. And in these situations, again and again, King Kaushik loses. What is lacking? The inner disposition is not adequate. And so losing his position again, now what? South is covered, he goes to west. He goes to a place called Pushkara Lake and again restarts his life for another 1,000 years. He worships Brahmaji, and we have yet another story of Trishanku Raja's son Harishchandra and how he uses up his strength of his tapas to protect him, to support him, and the title that he had gotten, another title called Rishi, is also lost out. Fed up, Sage Vishwamitra, who was King Kaushik, has moved now from north to south, south to west. Where to go next? He goes back to north. Continues his penance. He doesn't give up. Yet another 1,000 years, and he gets now a new title of a Maharshi. Maharshi, he has definitely conquered his competitive spirit. That ego where he wants to be bigger than Vashishta, he has dropped that. But now there is another challenge going to emerge for him. He is a Maharshi, all right. Maharshi Vishwamitra, all right. Maharshi Kaushik, in fact he is Maharshi Kaushik. And there comes this beautiful celestial Apsara called Menaka, and comes in his vicinity, and King Kaushik is enchanted by her. He wishes to marry her, and they live together for 10 years. They have a daughter named, you know very well, Shakuntala. And so Sage lives there with her, but he recognizes, what a mistake. Again, I had no hold over my passions. I still, he moves towards the east to do his penance, and when he goes there, Rambha, yet another celestial Apsara, shows up. But this time he is not going to let his desire overtake him. But you know something? He is still not won over his anger. Seeing the game, he is angry at Rambha. In that anger, his penance, the power of his penance is impacted, and he has now recognized not only competition, ego, he had gotten over karma, but the remaining anger he had to cross. The anger with the world, the anger against himself, unable to achieve what he really wanted. And he goes giving up he finally sits in his penance, recognizing his limitations. It is time for surrender. Seeking blessings of the gods, he spends hundreds of years in penance. Finally, Brahmaji comes and gives him the title. What? O king, you have become a Brahmarshi. You have conquered in your journey, you have conquered your anger, your desires, your passions, your competition. You have become one with the universe. You are one who's no more King Kaushik. You are a Brahmarshi. The sage is not convinced. He will only be convinced if Sage Vashishta comes to him. Well, Sage Vashishta is there. Sage Vashishta declares you are not only a Brahmarishi, you are a Vishwamitra. You are the friend of the universe. And that title is given by Sage Vashishta. The king prostrates at his feet, recognizing that this is the journey to oneness, to unconditional love. You never conquer, you don't become somebody by competing with the world or outsmarting, either in the material world or in the world of penance. It is about aligning with the universal love, dharma of the divine.